Hello, hello. I am back, of course, with another wonderful episode. I love bringing these guests to showcase their businesses, share their lives, and tell you everything about what they're doing because I know how important inspirational stories are. Today, I have been joined by a lovely Milspo. Mia is here to talk to us. She is brilliant. Giving the history of Milspo, she's quite a new member, but she's got stuck in and she is an integral part of the Milspo community and, of course, the Inner Circle membership. So, hello, Mia. How are you today?
I'm really well today, Jess. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this.
Oh, it's going to be fun. We're going to have a good old natter. And we should not worry about the nerves. We're just going to pop it on the internet and share your lovely story. So, first off, could you please introduce yourself and what you do?
Hi, I'm Mia Harrington. My business is Handly Stitched Soft Furnishings. So I make hand-stitched curtains, Roma blinds, lampshades, cushion covers. Generally, if I can sew it, I can have a go at making it for you.
But that's not how you started off, did you? You were in the Air Force.
No, I did just under 30 years in the Air Force. I was an air traffic controller and then an air safety manager. I came to this through always loving working with fabrics. I grew up around a mother that sewed, and when I was moving around when I was in the Air Force, like so many of us, I was fairly fed up with the average to bland curtains, the magnolia walls, and everything that makes living in service accommodation so bleak. So I started out originally painting walls, and that particularly got very demoralising because there's a lot of effort to unpaint them when you move out. So I then worked out that fabric wasn't the way ahead, and I very quickly started making drapes and cushions and curtains to make my quarter rather than just the average bland box that they are.
It's so interesting. So I was talking to Susan. I've interviewed Susan Bonnet from the British Craft House, who was also an air traffic controller. She's a Navy one, and moved into creating her own cards. The question I asked her, which I'm going to ask you as well, is it's not the most natural move, is it? Is air traffic controlling like sewing, being creative? Is there a link there?
Not to the craft and creative side of things, but I think there's definitely, you can see linkages in the brain processes when it comes to running your own business, because you're dealing with short notice inputs, you're dealing with unexpected things, you're spinning a lot of plates, you're generally doing two or three things at a time. You might be talking to an aircraft and there's a conversation and your supervisor's standing behind you giving instructions, or something's happening out the window, and you're using all of your senses. So that juggling element of being a small business owner, I think there is a linkage across to the skills that you have in what I did to what I do now, in the way that, running a small business is nothing like I expected, but still absolutely brilliant.
And we do a little bit of research before I get chatting, just so I know more about you. And you said in the form that you started your business and you found it a little bit fiddly. Do you think your RAF background has helped that? Because obviously you said you can juggle lots of balls, many balls. But
I
how
think
fiddly have you found it?
I think it's definitely, there are so many skills that life and service life has given me. Some of that just being the resilience to pick myself up when things are difficult and, have a go at something rather than walk away from it. And some of those are just about focus and getting on with stuff when even if you don't like something, even if you don't like someone, you get on with it, you get through it, and you move through it and get on with the next thing, personal project. So I think, yeah, there's definitely a resilience and flexibility of mindset that it's given me.
That's so good because veterans obviously sometimes really underestimate the skills they have. Would you consider, so your husband's still in, your husband's still serving. Um, would you consider yourself a military partner or a veteran or some sort of fusion of both? Or are you just a business owner now?
I am all three. I am a business owner who is married to someone in the forces, and the majority of my adult life I served in the Royal Air Force. My husband's just come back from a deployment, so I'm absolutely a military spouse in the fact that I've gone through the challenges of running my own business, my home, my life, supporting both families while he's been away. But I think the only difference now is the fact that we have opted to buy our own home, and we are therefore static geographically, with a home that we can invest time and money in and know that it's ours, and we're not going to have to clean it and clean the oven and give it back and let someone else love it or hate it.
Or hate it indeed. Or paint the walls. I very rarely meet people that paint the walls, and I have so many questions about that, but we will move on from that. So you start your business. When did you start your business?
I started my business in late 2021 as I came out of the Air Force. It was clearly COVID, it was lockdown, it was not the best time for starting a business. It involved going into other people's homes, and all of the challenges that came with the COVID period. But it also gave me a chance. I left the Air Force on medical grounds. I wasn't well enough to go into conventional or full-time employment. So by opting to run my own business, it gave me the flexibility to be my own boss, to set my own rules, to work as much or as little as I wanted and needed to, which allowed me to get better slowly, and then has allowed me to take the business forwards as I've had more time and energy to do so.
And did the transition period, do they set you up for business, for this type of business?
So I think there are lots of resources available. The resettlement offer is good, but if you want to completely reskill in a way like I did, then the centrally provided resettlement offer gives you the time to do it. What it doesn't do is recognise and can't really afford to support you through all of the courses, that commercial courses that cost money, because I didn't want to go and be a bricklayer or a plumber or go into cyber security, which so many of the core resettlement courses still do feel very male working environment focused. And don't take that as a I'm being genderist. That's very much just a case of the nature of the resettlement courses are focused at the majority of people that leave the forces. They can't offer everything through the centralised resettlement services. So I was aware of and applied to the RAF Benevolent Fund for additional grant funding to help fund some of my training courses, and I was awarded additional money by the Benevolent Fund that helped pay towards some of those extra courses I did, which was absolutely amazing. I didn't go any further than that. I did self-fund starting the business up, but I'm aware that there are other organisations that could have done that. And there were a number of organisations offering business startup type training, and I elected and felt comfortable doing, I can't think of the name of it. What do we do, Jess?
What do you mean?
Sarah's programme.
Oh, Supporting the Unsung Hero.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry, there's me completely failing. So I elected, having looked at the various offers, I elected to do the Supporting the Unsung Hero programme run by Sarah Walker through the Black Country Chamber of Commerce, as it was at the time when I did it.
We love Supporting the Unsung Hero. I did it, gosh, it feels like a lifetime ago. I think it was 2012, 2013. I was in cohort 2. And it was wonderful. It set me up, and big fans of Supporting the Unsung Hero. So you've gone through your resettlement, you've done some training, you're ready to start your business. How did that unfold?
Well, I started mainly making for friends, because I think the challenge for everybody that makes a product-based business is the fact that you need imagery and you need to prove yourself to people, and photographs of installations you've done in people's homes help you do that. But they also help you get the business finances and your kind of your background information and your credibility online, so that you can start to apply for trade accounts. Because yes, I can go to the high street and I can buy fabric or I can buy poles or whatever, but so can everyone else. So it was important for me to build that basic business credibility up so that I could establish myself as a business and therefore get the accounts with trade suppliers, so that I could offer fabric supply service and a hardware supply service. So although I'm not and don't aspire to be an interior designer, I can help people choose and coordinate hardware and fabrics and finishes so that they can pull together their own look. Or I can point them in the direction of an interior designer who will do all that for them for a fee. And then I can make what the interior designers come up with.
Yeah. And this is from your spare room to start with, wasn't it?
Yeah, it very much. We worked out that the recommended size work table, because handmade curtains are made flat on a table, they're not picked up and taken to the sewing machine all the time. They require quite a big working surface, and typically it's the width of a roll of fabric and then a couple 2-3 meters long. You'll see in big professional workrooms, they'll have tables that are 2 meters wide and 5 meters long, because particularly if you're looking at longer drop curtains, you do need that sort of space. But we worked out a system with trestles and a bit of some MDF that we could get up the stairs and through the door, and then with hinges on, with flaps on, so that I could make it big enough. If I wasn't making a small blind, I could make it big enough to make full length curtains. And I just started from there. And it evolved. I was never going to be able to fit my sewing machines and everything else in that room, so they were somewhere else. And then I bought an eyelet press, and that was in the dining room. And then I started buying fabric samplings from the supply companies, and that was in another room. And it became fairly apparent that my business was starting to take over our home. And it meant that I couldn't really switch off, because I walked through the dining room and my eyelet press was there. And it was like, on a Sunday, it's like, so the kind of that air gap you get between shutting the door and driving home, or shutting the door because you work from home in your spare room or a room upstairs, or it just wasn't there for me. So, and also it was becoming clutter, and my husband is a I wouldn't say a tidy freak, but he's definitely more tidy than I am.
I don't have one of those. I have a different type of Air Force officer, unfortunately, in our house, and it is chaos. But luckily, I do have my own space where I run my business, that I can stick things on the magnolia and shut the door at the end of the week, and that's me until I start again. So life is taking over, your business is taking over your life. But you solve this problem by moving into some lovely premises, which I'm so jealous about. The idea of it is just wonderful. How did that come about? And how's it working out?
Well, I think I might have been having my hair cut. So my premises are above my hairdressers, and the lady that was in the 2 rooms that I now occupy was a bridal seamstress, and she was relocating to the Isle of Wight because her children and her grandchildren had settled on the Isle of Wight from Shropshire. So she was moving out. The landlord was clearly keen to have a seamless transition so that the rental income kept going. And over probably 3 or 4 months, I evaluated and looked at the options and ran my finances and worked out how much harder I would have to work, because clearly moving into premises comes with a load of fixed costs that you don't have when you're working in your back bedroom. So clearly I had to think about how I was going to cover those fixed costs. And it has come with working more hours, but I'm over the hump now, and I'm hoping to kind of starting to set the balance of this, where I am in this premises now. I'm going to start after Easter winding my hours back a little bit and getting my work-life balance better. But it was a big decision. But because I was renting, and I was renting on a lease that had little or no notice, then I felt it was a risk that was worth taking to give my business the chance to be seen in the high street. Because while I continued to work from home, there are only so many Facebook posts you can do. There are only so many adverts you can do in the local village magazine. I think until you get seen and trusted by the local community, there are only so many family and friends you can make for or work for. And I needed that step out, and I haven't looked back since.
That's quite a scary thing to do, though. It's quite a brave move to really start investing in your business.
Yeah, I think it felt a comfortable step, because it was effectively risk-free because my utilities are included in my rent. I don't have to do any maintenance. I don't own the building. I think that the scary move would be if I decided to actually buy into somewhere and actually buy somewhere. And I'm not sure I want that. I'm in my 50s. You know, I want to carry on working, but I don't want to carry on working forever. It depends when the state pension age is, doesn't it? After yesterday's announcement on the radio. Yes, I think so. I love what I do. I want to keep doing it, but I'm not sure I'm wanting to buy somewhere. But I would like to be downstairs. I'd like to have a window on the high street, because I think the stairs are a physical barrier for people who can't manage stairs, and the black front door, which doesn't really suggest there's a business upstairs, however many signs I put on the street and outside, mean that a lot of people are put off coming up. So I'm here for now. Now might be another 5 years. Now might be another 6 months. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm making it work. The space is a compromise. My work table and machines are properly squashed in a room, but I make it work. Like we all do. You get on with it. Even when you move around, we've learnt to get on with it. And yeah, and I've gone from, spring last year where I was doing bits and pieces around the edges because I had the capacity, and I was making lampshades because I had spare time. Now I'm absolutely, my order book is jam-packed. I've got plenty of inquiries, and I'm not posting in the local Facebook groups to advertise my business because I don't want to have to tell people it might be a 2 or 3 month wait before I can start making their things at the moment. So I guess I have to celebrate my own success, which is brilliant.
It's completely brilliant. Do you think the visibility of being in a place has made that difference?
I think it's there's two elements to it. There's the visibility of being here, and having been here for over a year, I've lived in my local community, in my small town, for coming up for 9 years. I will never be a local. I wasn't born here. My parents weren't born here. There's no pretending I'll ever be a local, but I've been accepted by my community. I've been trusted by enough people to make things for them, that the word of mouth element is strong. And if people ask for recommendations on social media, then I get recommended, which I can only thank the local community for trusting and embracing me, and letting me do what I do for them.
And it's gone really well. So recently you've had a huge order, which is so exciting. We've been celebrating it because we're so chuffed for you. What difference has that made to how you feel about business, knowing that sort of client has now come to you for their beautiful things?
It's massively boosted my confidence, because it's one thing making one thing for one person. Although what I've generally found is, although I've probably done almost as much work as I'm doing for this one client, I've done for other people. It's been as I would probably do with a craftsperson. You ask them to do something small, and they do it well, and they communicate well, and you like what they've done. So you go, okay, so I'll have another scale project done, and then I'll have another scale project done. And so there's a couple of homes now in the local area that I've done all of the soft furnishings throughout their home, but I've done it or it's been a home that's been refurbished, so I've done a bit at a time. Whereas this current job I'm doing at the moment for the new Airbnb apartments down the high street from me, is they left it really late in the project plan to even approach me, which meant that I've been under massive time pressure to deliver for them. And it's 5 apartments with a total of 26 windows, and they're wanting curtains and voiles for privacy and cushions. And yesterday I went down to go and work out with them what lampshades they want. Oh, and they want to open next week. So there's been an element of the scale of the project was entirely manageable. The challenge has been the time pressure. So that's what's really stretched me, as far as physically stretched me, actually, because a lot of what I do and how I make is on my feet. And I'm looking forward to making it physically through to Easter and having a few days off, and then taking a step back and having a reset on the hours I work, and giving myself some leisure and friendship time back. I used to walk the dog with a friend 2 afternoons a week, finishing about 2:30. So not a half day, but that, and that's gone since Christmas. I've been so busy, and I took up self-employment to have a better work-life balance from Forces life. Was one of the many reasons, and I need to take that control back and not let the business run me, which it kind of is at the moment.
Yes, take it as a learning thing. But I tell you what, as soon as you go into those apartments, so I have it. So I'm a graphic designer, in case you hadn't known. So those listening, and 3 or 4 years ago, I designed the Celebrating Forces Families Awards. Bright purple, because it's prize service, so it's purple and gold and sparkly, and it's the awards. Then I went on maternity leave and came back the night of the awards, and the entire room at the Victory Services Club was lit up in the brand that I had designed. And it's amazing how your ideas in your head and the things you think about, all of a sudden you go into a real room and it's there. It's like your ideas have been just made to look wonderful. And you'll have that moment after all the hard work where you walk into that room and go, you know what? This rocks. I'm amazing. Look what I've done. And you should be so proud of that. Yes, and celebrate that moment. It's a really cool thing. And fair play to you. But yeah, learning, you've got to learn how to just do it a little bit easier. It's all about doing it easier. But entrepreneurial life is tough and crazy, and there's so much of balance. And military life is a balance. Would you say that what your husband is doing now has affected what you do for your job?
I think probably less so at this stage of our lives. As I said, we've bought our own home, so we are static. He is at the, I'd hate to say, the sunset of his career. That sounds awful, doesn't it? But he this later this year, Nick will have done 40 years in the Air Force. So he's had a pretty epic length of career. And he was in a staff desk job at the headquarters as we went into COVID. Thank goodness the MOD network had already been upgraded. So he picked up his laptop and he came home, and he's still at home. It's 2024. And apart from a deployment, he works from home almost all of the time. He goes to High Wycombe maybe once a month. He goes to Bryce or Abbeywood every couple of months. And apart from that, he's home. So a lot of the time doesn't feel like he's in the Air Force, because he's doing a project management procurement job, sat at a computer, using Teams, using Skype, working like any other person that does project management and procurement type roles in the commercial world. And then occasionally he has to jump in the car, find his uniform, jump in the car and drive to Shawbury to go and do a secure conference, or jump in the car and drive to the headquarters because there are certain meetings he has to do in person. So it is a bit of a surreal world. And I appreciate that the majority of the people in the forces don't live that life. And his office, there are not enough desks for the people in his team. So even if someone was to wave a big hammer and go, come back to work, they wouldn't be able to. And there's no accommodation at High Wycombe. So when he goes down to meetings, he lives in a hotel. I mean, it's kind of a different world, even from 5 years ago.
Yeah, I'm so glad this common sense is being applied, because it's a new world. We know it's a new world. I'm always banging on about modern military world. And it's just a nice thing to say. So I have this question that I've added to this series that is really interesting, the answer I've had. And it is about the MOD, because previously I've asked people who they'd want me to interview on this podcast series. And the reply normally pops back as somebody from the MOD, a policymaker, a big cheese in the MOD. If you were sat around a table with a load of people from the MOD that make policies or make decisions, what would you say to them? Maybe it's something they've done really well, something they're probably not doing particularly well. If you could go back to the RAF officer that you were at the start, knowing what you know now, what would you say to the MOD?
I think I was frustrated when I joined, and I remain frustrated throughout, that the MOD has always felt a generation behind on its policies, whether those policies be to those individuals that were in same-sex relationships, in long-term relationships, in entitlement to housing. There are so many different worlds that my job, my life, the people that I worked for and I worked with, their personal lives were and are affected by the almost what sometimes feels like Victorian attitudes to life. And then as we move forwards to what's been going on in the last few months with the new, now on hold, accommodation model policy, where no consideration or allowance was given for those service personnel who may have spouses, partners, other halves that work from home and therefore need part of the home to give them that workspace. I think their ability to see and appreciate the bigger picture, that a service person isn't just a person and the family isn't just baggage that gets moved and dragged and dropped, and that they are a package. And if you don't look after that package, then you won't retain the service person in the end, because they will get fed up and that pressure will lead on the service person. So I haven't really answered your question, but I think the modernisation of policy, but listening to the bigger picture, but it's all money driven. It doesn't matter whether it's the Ministry of Defence or a commercial organisation. When it comes down to it, there is a certain amount of money. They are under pressure to save money left, right and centre. And without going down the rabbit hole of contractors that maintain quarters and the quality of the housing stock and everything else, that's been spiralling downhill for decades. You know, when I first joined and I lived in my first quarter, I'm going to scare you and say way back in 1994, then there were challenges and issues then, and there are challenges and issues now, and they're just different challenges and issues. But half of it seems to be either their willingness to bow to pressure from certain organisations or not appreciate the package that is the service person. That makes sense.
Complete sense, because it's and if it is about money, it's got to be more cost effective to not have to retrain somebody again, surely. So it makes sense to all of us. I just hope that it's filtering through and things will change, because you know how much we value the military community. We think they're fab. We love Milspo. There's something special about the military community. If you're living in your real house, or if you're weekending, or if you're moving every 10 minutes, we all have similar challenges and we have unique challenges. And I think it's really important that we pull together, which brings me very, very nicely onto community. How important for you as a business owner, as a military partner, as a military veteran, is community?
Community is everything. Now, we've made a decision to settle in a small town, and we have worked hard to integrate with the community. But that community is the community I live in, the community, the small business community that's helped me as a small business owner is the only community I know, which is the Milspo community. And they have absolutely kept me sane, kept me smiling, picked me up when I've been down. And I wouldn't have the business I have now if it wasn't for that community, both through the absolute basics of having a group where you can ask questions and get sensible answers from people without people biting your head off, and people are just very positive and supportive, to networking and getting to know people, and then reaching out. I mean, I haven't exclusively, but I have connected with people on a personal level, and therefore I think when you're a small business owner, people people buy from people. People, you want to work with people. I don't want to have a digital marketing company that is faceless, that is just a machine. I want to be able to connect and resonate with the people that run it and that are passionate about it, and all people that have helped me for my bookkeeping. I have support, professional support with helping do my digital marketing plan. My digital content planning through Rachel Luke, who I met through Milspo. It's all about Rachel's today. And then I discovered, well, I didn't discover, I'd been back of a fag packing my finances, which Caroline would absolutely scream at. But no, I was small enough that I was doing my finances in a very low level, basic way. And I realised as my business growth, and particularly the move to where I am now, I needed to get a better grip of my understanding of my books. So I signed up to Rachel Minns's Bookkeeping Cure, and I go and do my monthly accountability sessions and have a bookkeeper on hand. I don't need a bookkeeper to do my books. I don't need to pay a book. I'm not, my income level for my business isn't sufficient to pay a bookkeeper. But reaching out to a like-minded community of people where we've all got our own different challenges, we've all got completely different businesses, but we care passionately about the community that we're in. And I don't think I would have the business I have now if it wasn't for the Milspo community, because they've given me the confidence, the passion, the energy, and the stuff in the background to help me look professional, to help me grow, and to keep me sane. And it sounds really weird, and there are lots of people out there that love squirreling themselves away in their back bedroom or whatever, and just having the sanctuary, and could live like a hermit and not have social contact. And then there's small business owners like me that absolutely, having done 30 years in the military, yearn social contact. So having virtual co-working, having the networking opportunities, it is my lifesaver. Some people would think it's completely mad that I can put my iPad on my work table and have a screen with maybe 5 or 6 other people all quietly working away, and that helps motivate me and helps make me work harder. But it does, because I know that when someone stops for a coffee, we might discuss the latest biscuits or cakes, or it just keeps me going. And it was absolutely a lifesaver when my other half was deployed, because otherwise I was going home to, I was at work most of the time on my own, and then I was going home to an empty home. And yeah, they were my virtual social circle. And then when Sarah did the Supporting the Unsung Hero 10th birthday weekend in October, even more amazingly, I actually got to meet some of them in person. And that was even more amazing. And it just strengthened the connections, and it's made me, an absolute advocate for what it offers. And then signing up for the Inner Circle, it was yet another thing I needed to pay for. My little business was going, can I really justify it? And I didn't to start with. But actually, there are so many of us, and I put my hand up to say mine was a hobby that was out of control to some extent when it started. It was a hobby business, but I couldn't afford a hobby business. It needed to be a business that was paying for itself. And it helps me focus with my accountability partner, with the sessions we run, on making my business a business and not a very exhausting, expensive hobby.
Well, I think there is nothing more I can add of any value. That was fantastic. The check's in the post. No, I'm joking. I've not paid her. She just genuinely loves it. I promise. I promise. Thank you so much, because it's such a, I'm passionate about Milspo. I love Milspo. We all know how much I love Milspo. To the point of extremeness. I get in my soapbox and bang on about it. But it's just lovely to hear the difference that it has made to your business. And yeah, it helps me every day, and it's my gang, and we're fab, and we look after each other, and we're completely welcoming. So if you haven't joined, if you haven't come to any of the events, maybe just try one and see. We do have good fun, I promise. So I guess that's kind of us reaching the end. If I wanted to find you online, if I wanted to commission you, if I wanted to look at your beautiful things, where would I find you?
So I am on Instagram and Facebook as at Handly Stitch, and my website is handlystitch.co.uk, or just give me a shout out in the Milspo Facebook group. Or if you're not in Milspo but are a Milspo, then get on in there and have a look at what is an amazing community.
Oh, you're so fab. Thank you so much. And then before we finish, is there anything else?
I don't know. What haven't we talked about? Lots of things. I could promote lots of other Milspo businesses that have got me along the way. It was, I think we were doing a networking event a couple of weeks ago, and we were chatting about something, and there was someone that did my user experience check on my website. There was someone, of the networking things I've done, because I forget now. I'm 2.5 years of running the business, and obviously at the start I didn't know anything. I built my own website. It looked all right to me. I needed some I know what a bad website looks like, and I know what an amazing website looks like. I haven't got the money for an amazing website. I just needed to have a good website, if that makes sense. So I think having knowing that I could pull on the sorts of resources, that I didn't need to pay for a full website design with money I didn't have. I didn't sounds awful. The graphic designer in you is gonna. I didn't have a lot of cash to pay for a massive design package, so I could just have the basics, and I could have the basics of all the different things from lots of different lovely people who weren't a big corporate, who were charging correctly, but were there to help. There was a real passion in helping each other out. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's about those little steps. It's all about taking the little steps towards growth. It's just making it a little bit easier. Yes, you can
Yeah.
sit at home and do it all by yourself, but why not come and find us and let's make it a little bit easier for everybody.
And I think that's the challenge, is when you start your own business, all the things that the thing is that it's the Donald Rumsfeld, the unknown unknowns. I knew I needed a website, but I didn't know anything about website design. But I knew I couldn't afford to have someone design it. But at least knowing that I could design one myself and then pay someone a little bit of money to try and pull it apart and tell me how to make it better was better than just sitting on my hands and doing nothing. So yeah, I think there's an element of, well, there's so many elements of small business ownership that the if someone had told me that at the beginning, I might not have done it. I think I'd have still done it. It just, I don't even think it would have evolved differently. I think it's just that it's tough. It is properly tough. And I'm sure all the people that run service-based businesses would say exactly the same. They have different challenges, but we all have the same challenges of trying to make the right decisions for our business. And
yeah, lower overheads, but just as much challenge, I reckon, service business owners versus product service businesses. But yeah, I think community is the solution to that. It's getting together, it's supporting people. And you know what? It's those crummy days where your husband's deployed or your child's sick, or it's just, you know what? It's raining and you live in a grotty Mary quarter. Having other people that get it is so important. And this, even if it's not Milspo, the small business community in the UK is fantastic. So get involved because you can only gain from it. Mia, this has been so fab. Thank you so much for letting me dive into your world and quiz you and find out about your lovely business. It's really been just fab talking to you. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jess. It's been a pleasure.